We have Greg Kading, author of the book Murder Rap, former LAPD detective, best known for working on law enforcement task force investigating the deaths of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls. Greg, how's it going, man?
Things are good, bro. How are you doing?
Well, considering me and one of my co-hosts are dealing with some nasty colds right now, we've been better, but we're definitely excited to have you on the show. So it kind of cheers us up a little bit.
Yeah, sorry for the stuffed nose.
You guys are getting beat down out there with some foul weather.
Oh my God, man! It wasn't where I live. I'm up in Maine, and a lot of the state got hit hard, and I didn't get. I live on the top of a hill, so I don't really know how much snow I got because the wind just blew it all up against the house and all of my porch. I had like 6-foot snow drifts that I was like shoveling. Oh man, that was the worst, man. It's the snow drifts that got me. So I don't know what.
Yeah, I hope you.
It's welcome to Maine.
Yeah. Well, I had the pleasure of being through there in the fall, so I know you get your, you get your seasons, and I kind of sympathize with your winters, though.
Oh yeah, yes. I mean, spring, summer, fall, love it. But I mean, I'm used to it, man. I love snow. I love to ski, snowmobile, but I'm not a big fan of the cold. I mean, I like to stay warm. I mean, I think we all like to stay warm. But I'm used to it. I used to work on ski mountains making snow, so I know how to dress when I go outside, and I got that all down. But I know a lot of people complain about the snow, but man, I love the snow. So.
Well, you don't sound too bad, so I guess you're getting the better of that cold. So.
Yeah. Took some cold meds before the show, drinking some green tea with lemon and honey. So. I'm doing all I can here, but and you're on the West Coast, man. So we get so many guests that are in California, Hollywood, Los Angeles, and everyone's always like, man, you're out in Maine, or like and like Jeff, my co-host Jeff, he's from Pennsylvania, so he's on the East Coast, and Michael is in Wyoming, so I mean, we get the cold weather. I think Michael might get colder weather than us at times, though. Right, Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cold. But it's been warm lately. I've been surprised.
Yeah, the sun's been shining here though today. It was a beautiful day here. I mean, it was cold, but the sun
melting all that snow.
Yeah, there's a lot of it built up, so it's going to take a lot to melt what's there, but it's all good, man. I got some snowbanks plowed. Me and my son will make some forts next weekend, so I'm pumped for that. So yeah. So Greg, man, we'll get this going. Before we get into the topic, I'm kind of curious what got you into the law enforcement? What made you decide that? What made you want to get into the law enforcement anyway?
It just so happened when I was, in my late teens and early 20s, there was a mentor in my life. My best friend's dad was a local cop, and he had a big influence on me in those late teenage years. And I went to college for a minute, and it just wasn't really feeling it, and I was just kind of like aimless, and he made the suggestion, hey Greg, why don't you try a shot at being a cop? So I applied at a couple agencies and got picked up and processed through all the testing, and that's how it all got started. And then once I kind of fell into it, I kind of developed a knack for it.
Awesome. And from what I've read, man, you seem like a stand-up stand-up police officer, which we here on the show respect, because I mean we've had shows dedicated to, you know, police brutality and stuff like that, and you know, we're not all for, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on these days, and of course, you know, with video, you know, camera phones and everything, things are getting caught now, and you know, so, but you know, I read some stuff on you. It seems you're a pretty honest guy, and considering the work that you've put into this, it even shows even more, you know, that you're more of the type of stand-up cop that's, you know, just looking for the truth, man, and so I just let you know that, man, that I respect that. So
I appreciate that. I really do. You know, law enforcement is a human endeavor, and whenever there's humans involved, there's going to be human failure. So it's just like any other profession. You know, you got your people that are there really trying to do the right thing, and then you have, you know, a small minority of people that get sidetracked and make everything look bad for the rest of us.
Yep, and it does, man, and it's too bad that it has to be that way, but it is the way
has
it is.
their own agenda.
Yeah. So and something that we were talking about as the show started, that's we happened to notice was trending here on Facebook. Did you see the news about Suge Knight?
Yeah, my phone's been blowing up. I just got a text like 3 seconds ago saying that they've issued a police bulletin, a wanted bulletin for Suge for his arrest, you know, and considering him armed and dangerous. So this whole thing is kind of escalating rather quickly.
Damn. Karma.
It is.
Ironic that it happened on the day that we were having you on the show, too.
I know. I was like, well, this is going to change the topic just a bit. This is the immediate, you know, situation. And so the guy that he killed was not just some nobody, you know. It was a legitimate, you know, L.A. legend, a guy named Terry Carter. And so there's going to be repercussions.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Pardon me?
Michael, what was you saying?
Oh, I didn't say anything.
Oh. Yeah, well anyway, so yeah, I didn't I mean, we were on the show when it happened, so I was just kind of like reading through it. I didn't see who it was. That name does sound familiar though. It's his friend now, right? So he ran his own friend over?
Yeah, they've kind of become associates of late, and there was, you know, an altercation, or at least a verbal altercation that broke out, according to what I've been hearing, and you know, things just spiraled out of control, and you know, Suge ran the guy over, but supposedly, sorry, Dane, just 1 second, you know, jumped in his car and ran the guy over and then fled. And sorry about that for a second. I got distracted. Somebody just walked in and handed me paper. He ran. The guy that was his friend is who he ran over, but it looks like they had some kind of altercation or you know, conflict, and that's what led to you know, that guy getting murked. So the whole thing's a mess. Typical Suge Knight life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, man, karma. He's obviously gonna be back in prison, so where he belongs.
Well, he'll probably be better off there, considering who he killed. And you know, another kind of interesting. He's going to claim, guaranteed. This is my prediction, and I won't be surprised whatsoever if he gets away with it. He's going to claim self-defense. He's going to claim that fear for his life, and that it was an accident, but he was just trying to flee a situation where he felt his life threatened. And who knows, man, with Suge Knight's luck or lack thereof, depending on how you look at it, he might, you know,
think you could slip away from this?
Potentially. I mean, the guy's slipped away from so many other clear criminal acts. He's gotten away with so much, so many times that who knows anymore.
Yeah, and like you said, probably will be better off in prison for him anyway. He might possibly be a little maybe more safer in there.
Yeah, the story is, and again, this is just street speculation, is that they're producing this film down in Compton, NWA, based on the rap group, and evidently there's a character in the show portraying Suge Knight, and Suge's upset that he's not getting some compensation for having his character portrayed in a movie, and this is typical. He expects to be paid for anything that happens in Los Angeles, that's related to the rap music world or the hip hop scene. He expects people to pay dividends, and this is why he's had so many conflicts lately, because he's constantly pressing up on people.
Yeah, and it was just, I don't know, it was recently, last year he was shot at again and somehow survived. We were talking about that earlier. So that's like 2 times, right? Well, actually, that would make 3 times that he's actually been shot at, because he was with Tupac on the night, and didn't Tupac was the one who ended up dead, and Suge stayed alive.
Yep, and he's got 9 lives, no doubt about it.
So good. I guess we'll start with. We might as well start with Tupac. I mean, the events leading up to, of course, in Las Vegas where it happened. We had the altercation that happened. Is that the Mike Tyson fight, right? Yep. And we had the altercation out in the lobby, and that. Well, actually, what. You can tell the story better than me, actually.
Well, it actually goes way back.
Yeah,
before
right.
That night. There was a series of events that took place, over a year, 2 years, that all just kind of escalated to the point, where Tupac is ultimately shot, and then in retaliation, Biggie Smalls is killed in Los Angeles 6 months later. But it was a series of events and a series of conflicts, and there was conflict between Suge Knight and Puffy Combs. There was some conflict between, obviously, Biggie and Tupac, and then there was conflict between the gangs that represented the 2 groups. Suge was affiliated with a Blood gang out of Compton, and Bad Boy Records was affiliated with a Crip gang out of Compton. So there were these layers of conflict that involved a lot of people. And there were a lot of confrontations, and ultimately, as you probably have read, Suge Knight's bodyguard got killed in Atlanta after a confrontation with Puffy Combs and his bodyguard, and Suge always held Puffy responsible for that. And then there was the public dissing and the lyrics on the different albums, and then in 1995 at a Christmas party here in Los Angeles, Suge Knight and several of his Mob Piru associates and Tupuc Shakur grabbed one of Puffy Combs' producer associates, basically kidnapping him at a house and beating the shit out of him until they were trying to torture him into giving them the whereabouts of Puffy Combs when he's in Los Angeles, his family house in Los Angeles. And so ultimately, word would have gotten back to Puffy that these guys are serious about hunting him down, and that's when he makes the solicitation to his Crip associates out here that he needs to take care of Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur, because it's like a do or die, them or me type of thing. And Las Vegas happens, and although there was no plan to go out there and execute the agreement, one thing led to another, and it just put that prior, for lack of a better term, into motion. And The individual who ultimately killed Tupac Shakur was a guy named Orlando Anderson that was a Crip gang member, a member of that group that was representing Bad Boy at certain occasions out here in Los Angeles. And when Tupac attacked him in the lobby of the MGM, of course, he would have taken that personally and probably would have killed Tupac, just on principle.
Right.
But because there were other factors, the other Crips that were involved in the murder got themselves involved, namely his uncle Keefe D, who was the one who handed him the gun in the car as they approached the BMW and shot at Tupac. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, a series of events that lead up to the murder. And then once Suge Knight gets himself thrown back in jail because of his involvement in that beatdown of Orlando Anderson in Las Vegas, he decides to retaliate and take out a member of Bad Boy. At that time, there was rumor on the street that Biggie Smalls had been in Las Vegas, and that it was Biggie Smalls who had solicited Tupac's murder, and that it was Biggie Smalls' gun. All of that was erroneous. It was all bad information, but that was the information that was circulating on the street, which is why Suge Knight would have identified Biggie Smalls as the responsible party in Tupac's murder. He would not have known about the solicitation by Puffy Combs to the Crips.
Right.
That misunderstanding led to Biggie Smalls' murder, and of course, that takes on several conspiratorial, theories and goes in a whole different direction. But in a nutshell, that's what it was. It was a couple of guys who had beef with each other and a couple of gangs that were representing them that took action for them.
Right. Oh, man. So, from what I read on the night of Tupac's murder, it was he pulled over or something. It might not have even happened. Like, it almost ended up being kind of luck that they saw him after the fight, because he had pulled over and he was talking, like yelling out to some women or something, and they just happened to see him. So they just decided it was going down right then.
Well, just to clarify that understanding, what happened was on the way away from the MGM, when Suge Knight and his entourage were going down the street, Suge was pulled over, and some girls that were driving by recognized Suge, and Suge kind of invited them to jump in the entourage or the caravan and go party with them at the 662 Club, which was a club that Suge Knight had bought, intended to kind of, promote. And it was, a well-known idea that Tupac Shakur was going to perform that night at that club. It was on the local radio. If you remember, there was a song played called "Let's Get It On," which was the song that was being played when Mike Tyson entered the ring for about that night.
Yep.
During the song, Tupac basically says, "Hey, later on we'll all be at the 662 Club." So everybody knew where they were going and what the plan was for after the fight, and to go party at Suge's club. And so that's where the Crips went. That because they were in enemy territory, there were some Mob Piru gang members that were working the parking lot, so the whole thing got really awkward out in the parking lot while these Crips were lying in wait, and so they drove away. And so then that's when the happenstance happens, the kind of random encounter where they're going one direction, they see the caravan of Suge Knight and people hooting and hollering, and they're as surprised as anybody else. They're like, well, there's those, pardon my language, motherfuckers right there.
Yep.
So that's when they flip the car around and pull up alongside Suge's BMW, and Orlando Anderson leads out the back window and opens fire, and then they flee the scene. Most people don't know that there was actually a secondary shooting after Orlando Anderson shoots into the BMW, hitting Tupac. One of the gang members, a Mob Piru gang member, who's also armed, exchanges fire with the white Cadillac as it's fleeing. And that gang member's car is shot by Orlando Anderson also. That's really never been made public, and most people don't even know that there was a secondary shooting involving these people.
Huh. Yeah, and that's nothing that I didn't know that. And, oh, by the way, I ordered your book today. I haven't read it, but I should have ordered it before the show because I wanted to actually read it before the show, but I ordered your book, so I actually can't wait to read it.
Well, see, you have to make a decision. You want to read or shovel snow, bro?
You also made wasn't there a movie coming out, or has it come out yet? A film on this?
There's a documentary being made based on the book. In fact, it's completed with the exception of a couple small edits, but the documentary's done. The guy who produced it and directed it, a guy named Mike Dorsey, I think did a really good job with the budget that he was working with, and it's out right now, kind of getting shopped around, and ultimately will get picked up and made available for people to see.
Yeah, right. For the people that don't like to read, I like to read. I'd rather read actually than watch something. But I'm going to check them both out anyway. But yeah, it is. I mean, I know a lot of people are interested in this. I know, me growing up, when everything happened, it was. I mean, obviously, I was big fans of Tupac and Biggie, and so it was a big deal when it all went down. But that was a rough time in rap. It's not so much anymore like that. But that whole East Coast West Coast thing was like it was getting out of hand.
Yeah, I think the rap industry hopefully learned something from that. That they need to that how serious it gets, and there's the players and the people that are kind of posing, but then there's some real street dudes that take things quite seriously and will take things to the next level. And I think they've kind of recognized that you've got to be cautious when you're dealing with gangs, and a lot of the hip hop and rap culture is from the streets, and so therefore it's associated often with gang activity. But these people are oftentimes playing on a different level, and you have to be aware of that if you're going to associate with them.
Yeah, do you think like some of them are actual drug dealers, or do they just say they are? That's just their stand-up.
Are you talking about the rappers, or are you talking about
Yeah.
I don't know. You'd have to kind of look at each one individually and kind of see what their background is, and what they're claiming versus what their actual history is. I'm sure a lot of them do. I mean, a lot of people that grow up in urban communities and kind of economically challenged areas deal drugs.
Yeah.
It's a way to make money, and certainly in the the Compton area and the gangs that were associated with Suge Knight, and those people were knee deep in drug activity.
Okay, so I just got a message here from a girl when I posted the link to the interview. She said, "I saw the other day he faked his death for kids Tupac appeared in two friends' videos." I mean, I don't know one way or another. I'm assuming he didn't, and I'm assuming you also saw his body, right?
Yeah, there's this conspiracy theory about Tupac Shakur faking his death, and it's usually the younger people that haven't really educated themselves on the facts of the case, and they just like the idea, or maybe they have such a passion for Tupac, they want to believe he's alive, and it's a little pathetic, but I sympathize with those who want to still believe that. But there's zero evidence for it. I mean, Tupac is dead. He died on September 13th, 1996, and his body was cremated, and there was a monumental amount of evidence to verify all of that. So for those of your listeners who want to believe that, they do it, without any true hope of that dream coming true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask, okay, so, and also I'm going to assume the conspiracy theory that the government was involved on some level. What is also...
What's funny is that you find it also fun. I mean, it's kind of funny how these theories are almost laughable, aren't they? I mean, you can't even really...
I love conspiracy theories. I actually believe a lot of them, but some things I don't believe, and this would probably be one of them.
Right.
Because they were heavily involved, like you said, in the gangs and the Bloods and the Crips, and there were a bunch of feuding going on.
Right, it happens.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, that's... What happened was just the nature of the streets. And there's no big conspiracy to it all. It's all relatively simple. Of course, the death row organization was a criminal organization, so it was under investigation by the federal government and a task force of people. And Tupac's family history also lent itself to government attention, and so everybody kind of reads into things and picks out little pieces of information that will play into the conclusions they want to have. So if you don't trust your government, you think that they are trying to oppress, the African American community, then you'll want to draw conclusions that support that perspective. But there's nothing. Tupac Shakur was not targeted by the United States government in any way, shape, or form. He was not a threat to the government. His way of life was not a threat to the government. His revolutionary perspectives weren't even developed enough to have the government's attention.
Right.
But of course, his family history with the Black Panthers and all of that would lend credence to the idea. But for Tupac himself, he's a victim of gang violence, and it's very unfortunate because had he just moved on to the next chapter in his life, because he was to the point, I think, where he was recognizing that this was not what he wanted to do, who knows where he'd be today. He'd be spread out all over the place, I bet.
Okay, so Tupac is not living, as we speak, in Cuba.
Everyone here, confirmed.
Well, now that the embargo against Cuba is basically getting lifted and travel is going to be, people can go there for themselves.
It will be like Bigfoot sightings.
So there will be a map of Cuba to try to find out where he's at.
Oh, yeah. Boy. Here we go. Make a TV show on it.
Right, Hunting Tupac.
Yeah.
I'm gonna narrate it. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. There you go, man. There you go.
Be out in the woods at night.
Right. Yeah.
That's great.
Oh man. So yeah. Anyway, all joking aside, so you were starting to. I mean, you were in on the investigation, and so what happened? You were starting to come on, some evidence or whatever, and then what happened? You got taken off the case just abruptly. What went on with that?
Yeah, there was some internal turmoil going on. I was involved in another really high-profile case that was being prosecuted in around 2009. Now, this is right about the time that we're making fantastic progress in the Biggie Smalls and Tupac murder investigations. Our task force is a federal task force, a group of, 15 or 20 guys. And we had all collectively come to the realization that, how these two individuals were killed and why they were killed, and we had confessing co-conspirators cooperating with our investigation. So we were very, very confident that we had all the right answers. And now it was just a matter of trying to round up the co-conspirators, the other individuals. And because of some issues that I was having in this other racketeering case, this other very large federal prosecution, the LAPD decided, hey, let's take Greg out of commission for a few minutes while we look into these claims that were being made by a defense attorney. And then the investigation just lost its steam. They didn't assign another lead investigator, and they slowly began to kind of just dismiss all of our progress and ultimately just disbanded the task force and shelved the investigation. In hindsight, what I recognized happened is that, the LAPD's primary concern was getting out from under this massive lawsuit that was lodged against it by Christopher Wallace, Biggie Smalls' estate. His wife and his mom were suing the LAPD based on some very bad investigative information alleging that LAPD officers were involved in the murder of Biggie Smalls. So they were suing the city, and this lawsuit getting thrown out of court and reintroduced and refiled, and it was going on over years and years and years, that potentially the LAPD, if found responsible, would lose tons and tons of money, upwards of $400 million. And so that was the impetus for putting the task force together in the first place, was to try to prove that the LAPD wasn't involved, if they weren't, which is exactly what we did. And we looked into it, with objective eyes, and found out how futile or baseless those claims were. And so once we found out who really did it, by effect, we disproved who didn't do it, which allowed us to have the lawsuit dismissed or retracted. So once the lawsuit was removed, once Valletta Wallace and her estate and her attorneys realized, well, the LAPD is on the right track with proving who did it. It wasn't who we claimed. So they retracted their lawsuit. And once that happened, the LAPD realized, hey, we're off the hook. Let's quit spending all these, man hours and resources, and basically just disbanded the case, because their concern was the lawsuit less than actually solving the murder of Biggie Smalls.
That doesn't surprise me.
It gets really political. It gets really bureaucracy's a bitch. And when you have a massive organization, the LAPD, and you've got tons of unsolved cases, and everybody's scratching for resources, they made the executive decision not to go forward with the investigation any further. And they were serving themselves as opposed to serving the public, because ultimately the case could have been solved to the point where we could have somebody.
So is the case officially closed, or is it still open? Is it?
It's considered a cold case. It's an unresolved cold case, but it's not a case that's being actively investigated. It's one where all the files are in archives, and if somebody calls in with a lead, it will be passed on to some investigator who's the custodian of the case. But it's not like the detectives are going out there and actively trying to solve anything. It's on a shelf, essentially. And that goes for the case in Las Vegas too. The Tupac Shakur case is in the same status.
Right. So so we know. Okay, so we got who killed Tupac. Now who was obviously we know Suge Knight was behind the Biggie Smalls, but there's who was the person that was behind, or the shooter of Biggie Smalls?
Biggie Smalls, as you know, was killed in March 1997 here in Los Angeles. Suge Knight was in the local county jail at the time.
Right.
He hasn't been actually sent up to state prison yet. And so he was in the county jail. And so he had a criminal associate, a female criminal associate, who he had been involved in a lot of other white-collar type of crimes with, and was a very trusted person who was able to come into the jail acting as a legal aid, which allowed her and Suge Knight to have unmonitored visits. They didn't have to talk on the jail phones through a piece of glass. they were able to meet in like the attorney's rooms where Suge could have private conversations with her. And what she told us was that she met with Suge, and the whole thing was facilitated by his criminal attorney, a guy named David Kenner, and he facilitated her to go in and have these unmonitored visits with Suge, and Suge directed her to get a hold of a gang member who he was very close with, who he knew would do what he asked him to do, and said, hey, get a hold of this guy named Wardell Faust. His gang name was Poochie, and I want him to kill Biggie Smalls. So she went and met with Poochie. Poochie agreed to do it for a certain amount of money. She went and reported back to Suge and said that Poochie's willing to take care of the murder for this amount of money. Suge facilitated the transfer of the money, and Poochie shows up at the Peterson Auto Museum, lies in wait, and shoots and kills Biggie Smalls. The only thing that we don't know is whether he acted in concert with somebody else that night at the Peterson Auto Museum. I think that it would have been necessary for him to have another, co-conspirator in order for it to go down the way that it did. Now, the female that I've been speaking of, she was at the party that night also. She claims she didn't meet with Poochie that night. So we don't know. There is that one unanswered little component to the story that we don't know if Poochie had a lookout or somebody else there with him, or whether he acted completely alone.
Definitely stuff that I didn't know. Well, I didn't know any of this until I want to say it was an L.A. Weekly article that I read. Was it L.A. Weekly that had something on this?
Yeah, L.A. Weekly had done a pretty extensive cover of the story. They did a lot of work on, about the time that the book came out. They did a really big story on the whole thing, so they got most of the information right.
Yeah, because that was I believe it was L.A. Weekly. It was a pretty long article, but it was detailed, and and I had read that, and I was like, wow, man, I was like, I got to get a hold of this guy, and I got to get him on the show, because this is I mean, I like I said, man, I know a lot of people are interested, and hopefully this will squash like you brought up, the conspiracies of Tupac being alive in Cuba or wherever, and get people at least pointed in the right direction. But they want to keep on their theories. They can do what they want. Everyone's free to do what they want. But
Chris, you would have to agree that there is some instances where the government is involved.
In which case specifically?
In this, you mean?
Yeah, are you talking about government involved?
Oh,
in
not
Tupac
in this
murder,
case. Just like other stuff.
Oh, well, of course, other stuff, yeah.
That's not
the...
there's cloak and dagger, espionage type of work going on in the government all the time, I'm sure, but I don't think their focus on a couple of rap stars would be very sensible.
So do you think gangs like the Crips and Bloods have a big influence on the L.A., I guess you would say Los Angeles government or the LAPD? Do you think they got ties?
No, not really. I mean, Crips and Bloods are the adversaries of the LAPD. We have anti-units, and, we put hundreds and hundreds of gang members in jail every year, and gang members shoot at cops, and cops shoot at gang members. I mean, there's no alliance between them whatsoever. As far as conspiring, do the police work with gangs in order to try to help them improve their communities and to squash gang violence? Well, certainly. But as far as the idea that the gangs have people that are influencing decisions at the LAPD or vice versa, that's fantasy.
Good enough for me, man. That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Michael?
I sense that Michael's not convinced. Is there anything that particular?
Oh no, I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing, if he's convinced or what. Did it get cleared up, Michael, or what? What do you think, Jeff?
I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. I don't necessarily believe that the cops would be involved in that, working or like conspiring with the gangs, like the guy says. I mean, but I don't know. I guess they do have their what are they called? Sabotage people, the people who pretend to be in the public, and they'll. But I don't think that sort of arbitrage has anything to do with this case. I mean, the cops who show up at rallies and pretend to be like a protester, and they start
Yeah. Well, what they actually do, and this is a common procedure in law enforcement, is you try to embed people in a position to feed information that will provide intelligence on criminal activity. And so, if there's going to be a protest or there's some type of thing, well, you'll put some undercover cops in there just to see who's agitating the crowd, see who's saying what, making sure that there's no conspiracy to firebomb a police house or firebomb a church or a mosque or whatever. So yeah, we embed, undercover agents in order to gather intelligence to prevent crimes from happening. So, I mean, that's just common sense, and cops have been doing that in law enforcement forever. So I don't know if that applies directly to what you're suggesting.
Do you think sometimes they just get bored because there's not enough violence? Because I saw a video recently of a cop inside the protest who was actually throwing rocks at the other cops. I mean, he was undercover or whatever. So I mean, why would they try to antagonize the cops to act against the protesters? And I mean, are they just?
That's a really a great question, and the only response I would have is that depending on who these protesters are, what group they're a member of, if you're trying to infiltrate them with an undercover officer, and you need that undercover officer to gain the trust of those individuals in the group, then he needs to act in a way where they're not going to suspect that he's either a coward or that he's, or that he is a cop, or, it's just like a guy that goes into an undercover capacity into a motorcycle gang.
Okay.
He's got to go through the rituals. He's got to commit some of the crimes in order to convince the other people in that gang to trust him.
Good call.
And so, potentially that could be one answer, is that he's acting in a way to gain the trust so that he can provide further information, more critical information from people inside a criminal organization, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I never considered that. That's a good point. Okay. All right. Wow. So, what is your view on this these whole riots that happened recently in Ferguson and around the world? People blocking traffic and whatnot.
The whole thing's, it's just this whole racial divide in our country is just it's
crazy.
It's crazy, and there's arguments on both sides. I mean, it's just too bad that it has to escalate to the point where property gets damaged and people get hurt and people's lives are lost. I mean, it seems like this day and age we should be able to have these conversations and work out these issues without it getting, I don't know, the whole thing is just madness, really.
It is. I'm glad it did seem to cool down, though, which is, I'm hoping for at least another 10 years that doesn't happen again. Let it, hopefully everyone blew off their steam or whatever, and it'll be more sensible.
I hope you're right. It seems like every decade or so we end up with some type of, urban riot in major cities.
Can't we all just get along?
In the words of the immortal Rodney King.
Yep.
Can we all just get along?
Yeah.
I don't think so, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. I don't, man. I don't. We'd like to think that we all could, but there's always going to be those people that, you know, it's just the way it is, man. We can't. There's nothing that we can do about it. I mean, we talk about it a lot on the show, but there's just only so much, you know, some of us can do. I mean, we can't control what other people are doing, you know.
Yeah.
It's probably going to take alien intervention. Aliens are going to have to come down.
Something crazy like that. Yep.
The passing in the bureau, man.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe once Tupac gets back from Cuba, he'll come up with the and he can help us all resolve these issues.
Exactly. Yes. Come save us, Tupac. Yeah.
How funny.
Yeah,
man.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Well, do you have a question?
Oh, me? No. I was.
I thought you were going to say.
No.
Yeah,
no, I'm good.
Well, we're coming up on the 11 o'clock, so we got to wrap up with the interview, but we really, really appreciate you coming on, man. It was awesome to talk with you. Appreciate you taking
thank you guys. I appreciate the conversation myself. It's one of my favorite subjects, obviously, so I appreciate your time and effort, so I really, return the thanks.
And do you have a website or anything people can go to pick up your book or whatever that you want to plug?
Just the book's on Amazon for anybody who's interested in reading it, and look forward to the documentary once that comes out. We'll do some advertising and blast out where people can see it, and I think the documentary it's much more in depth. There's a lot more information than in the book, and a lot more visual, stimulation, obviously. So
okay.
I think the documentary.